I worked at a movie theater for 8 months. I didn't necessarily hate it, but I realized it wasn't for me over the course of time. Now, a little background before I get into that. I was fresh out of college, trying to get a job at a TV station back when I still wanted to do that, and because that's kind of what I did the degree in. I was having no luck in the rest of May and the entire month of June. And so in early July, 2019, by the way, I went in for an interview at the movie theater I had usually been going to. I was going to a different location because they had reserved seating, and this one didn't have reserved seating at the time. So I went in for the interview, got hired on the spot, and I was made an usher in the 21 plus section. I was really glad to have gotten some kind of employment to make some money, even if it was what Andrew Tate would call a wagey job. And I thought I'd be a good fit for it because I really enjoyed movies. I really liked the movie theater experience overall. Well, not as much recently because of realizing that a lot of what they're putting out, what the studios are putting out, is garbage. Not to mention the cost and all that, and the justification for seeing something on the big screen, needing more justification for it, aka only wanting to see the big movies that have the actual spectacle that justifies the big screen. But I digress. Anyway, I did the orientation with three other guys that night. Yeah, this was at night because that's usually when a lot of stuff happens at a movie theater. The daytimes are very dead, especially on a weekday. That's usually when they have the elderly people who work there because I guess they want something to do, or they have to they didn't save up enough for retirement and social security isn't covering it, so there they are. I don't know the specific situations of them, so I'm not gonna go into that. Yeah, at first I worked a mix of nights and days, so you had to be available for 3 out of 5 shifts that were listed, that were Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 5 p.m. to close, and then Saturday and Sunday open to 5 p.m. Those are the 5 shifts you had to be available for at least 3 of, because that's when they get most of their business. That's just the reality of it. I mean, I knew to expect that, and I knew that the jobs that I was actually trying to get in the lead up to getting that job would have required a lot of nights and weekends, as I learned in college, and I came to accept, though deep down I didn't really want to do that for someone else. So I went in knowing that I usually worked until about 11 p.m., depending on the situations. So my first Saturday, I worked from open to, well, not right at open, from noon to 9. a little bit outside my availability, but I was shadowing one of the supervisors. There were 3 supervisors in the 21 plus section that I worked in. So I learned the ropes of the 21 plus section in particular that day. And then I mostly worked about 3 or 4 nights per week. I occasionally got Sundays off, or I would work Sunday open to 4 or 5 p.m. 5 p.m. is where cut my availability off. No, I was available all day Sunday, but they usually only scheduled me until 5 p.m. on that day. It was sort of a mixed bag because this was the summer when you'd have kids coming in during the weekdays because school was out. I mean, they didn't come to my section because I worked in the 21 plus section. So basically, I would just clean theaters, scan tickets, and I guess help customers get around and all that. I also ran food to tables. I learned the reserve seating section. I actually had to relearn the row letters because I worked there during their renovation to put in the reserve seating that I went to the other location for, which is where I used my employee tickets for the most part because you could use them at any location in that chain. Oh, by the way, you got 2 free tickets every week that were good for a month. You could have up to 8 at one point. Pretty nice benefit if I do say so myself. I didn't use it too much at first. Like I had to wait until I was in the system before I could start using them. And then I started using them in August. I would go to see Spider-Man Far From Home for a second time. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then yesterday. I eventually found out that you had to wait until 30 minutes before the showtime before you could actually use them, or at least that you were supposed to. You actually had to use them for, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I just remember I couldn't use them to get tickets to It Chapter 2 more than a about a month in advance. So yeah, I'd work like that until September, and then the schools went back in session. Hours went down. Well, I mostly worked the weekends at that point. This is when I started getting closing shifts on Sundays through Wednesdays, and then I'd be off Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, most of the time I'd be scheduled until about 11 p.m. after they locked the doors for the night and I was free to go. But it was in September when some of the other members of my department's crew who were younger than me went back to college for the fall that I took on more closings. I was working till 1 a.m. 4 nights a week and having my sleep cycle disrupted that I realized I hate working at night. I don't want to stay up that late unless it's something that I genuinely want to do, whether it's a venture like YouTube or some other venture or video game I really want to beat, though. Law of diminishing returns and all that, I've realized, like, comes to staying up to try and beat a video game when it would just make more sense to get some sleep and then come back and try again the next day. Yeah, it was towards the end of September that I realized I needed it to get out of there. And I had to have a job lined up because I learned from the college TV professor that it's easier to get a job when you have a job. That was mostly applicable to TV stations and such, or I guess media in general. I don't know if what Andrew Tate would call wagey jobs really care about resume gaps as much. Comment down below if you're a manager at a minimum wage job and if you can attest to whether that's a significant factor or not. Resume gap. Personally, I don't think resume gaps should matter, period, but I digress. Anyway, that's when I started looking for solutions. I went on a couple of job interviews in November after putting out applications. I did the whole send out tons of job applications, get zero replies meme. It's not a meme, by the way, it's actually true. I had several phone calls and then a few interviews, and I was getting really angry as I kept on not getting the new jobs that I was seeking. It all came to a head in mid late November, and I got this email feedback from what was clearly a scam because they tried having me send details to a Gmail account, and they tried making it sound like I would never have to come in anywhere. I knew the office there, but that was in the next town over, so on one of my Fridays off, or I went over there and tried to ask the guy at the front desk about it. He said that they weren't hiring, and I guess he just passed on the information about the scammers posing as them. And I almost replied to that email. I almost accepted that job offer because I was so blinded by my anger at having to work till 1 a.m. and having my sleep cycle disrupted like that that I almost fell for a scam. To be clear, I do not take it personally. I have never taken it personally. I don't blame anyone at the theater. The manager was just doing his job and finding someone to close each night. I do not hold it against them, and I respect their decisions, just as they respected mine to quit once I got the instant gratification job that I'm not going to go into detail about because I currently work there. But getting back to the movie theater job, I went out shopping afterward to, I guess, calm my mind. And I tried going to see Frozen 2 where I would have to pay for a ticket because it was a Disney movie, and Disney movies since 2017 have prohibited the use of free passes for the first 2 weeks of release. Even recently, with re releases, I'm not kidding, 2023 30th anniversary releases of Hocus Pocus and The Nightmare Before Christmas, and then December, the 35th anniversary of Die Hard, which they own now because they bought Fox. No free passes allowed to be used for the first 2 weeks of release. I mean, I understood it for new releases because you gotta make your money back on the investment. But for movies that came out before I was born, that's just a special level of insane right there. Anyway, getting back to the story, I eventually stepped back from job hunting in the holiday season from late November till early January. I guess I just resigned myself to my fate of closing. I did use a new availability to control when it was, so I would close Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then be off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The only time I really deviated from that was when my friend from New York State came to visit one Tuesday in November, and I made sure to have that day off so that we could go to the Museum of Science. But yeah, that was mostly my schedule until around mid January. They actually started having me open on Sundays. I mean, it was brutal to go from closing on Saturday night to opening on Sunday morning, but hey, at least I got one day shift per week. Yeah, it was nice, but at that point, it was too little too late, and I started applying to more jobs, not really caring if they were college degree relevant or if they even required a college degree. I just wanted out of working till 1 a.m. 4 times a week, which again, I do not hold it against the guy who made the schedules. I had made myself available for those, and it was up to me to either do them or go somewhere else. I chose to go somewhere else. Eventually, in February of 2020, I finally got the instant gratification job and turned in my 2 weeks' notice right after. They were all cool about it. I never had any sort of angry outburst over the whole situation of me closing because I'm a very agreeable guy and I played ball with it until I was able to remove myself from the equation, if you will. So it was early March of 2020, literally 2 weeks before the first day that they were closed for the pandemic. That was my last day working there. I clocked out and I was free to go. Of course, I also had to work during the instant gratification job during those final 2 weeks because I had to do the onboarding stuff there. It was a whole thing, but after 11 straight days of work, I was finally able to go to the Franklin Park Zoo for what I didn't know would be the last time for now. I might go back there someday, but I don't really feel the urge to do that, nor do I really have the money for it. But I did that to celebrate and my sleep cycle eventually began to heal, even with the night shifts from the instant gratification job. At least they weren't till 1 a.m. There was a more healthy balance that I found, and that's what mattered. And overall, I again do not hold it against anyone who worked at the movie theater that I had to work till 1 a.m. They had the needs of the business. I had made myself available for it, and I was one of only two or three who are generally available to close. There was this one guy who actually could have and did for a while, but had to change his availability for a good reason, but then just never changed it back when he easily could have. I respect his decision because after having worked till 1 a.m. as often as I did, I can't say I blame him for not wanting to. I mean, it would have divvied up the number of closings a little more fairly, but again, I respect his decision. Ultimately, it just didn't work for me working till 1 a.m. Though, if you're like this other guy who was a self professed insomniac, so if you like working at night, hey, that I know the job for you if you need to make some money quickly. Working at a movie theater, that is great for if you work you actually want to work at night. Not like deep into the night like my cousin's husband does for his job, but you're okay with staying up working past 1 a.m. That's the kind of job that I think it would be suitable for you. Obviously, it didn't work out for me, and I decided if I had to choose between free tickets or my sleep cycle, I chose my sleep cycle. We parted on good terms, and I was able to go back to the theater to see movies I wanted to see after they reopened. And I also got out of there just in time. So yeah, that's my experience working at a movie theater. Comment down below what you think of any of this or whether you'd be okay with working at night like that. Oh, wait, one more thing. It made me not want to work at a TV studio anymore because I learned from that experience that I dislike working at night. So it was a good learning experience as well. And that's why I haven't even tried to get back into a job at a TV studio. Not that it would be that easy or probably even possible at this point with how long I've been away from it all. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Give this video a like, subscribe for daily uploads. I'll see you soon.